Okay, so I just finished talking about Canvas in the video just before this. I'm not going to bore you with that, just some highlights. Again, you will find my syllabus. Make sure you do that, that survey, that questionnaire, and try and get it to me today. Just get it out of the way. All my PowerPoints will be there. Those review questions I talked to you about, the laundry list, not that many compared to A&P 1, but they're there. Excuse me. Any announcements, make sure you check that Canvas inbox twice a day, okay? Every day, I'll do the same thing. All my video lectures are there, and like I said, the best way, the really only way to contact me is through Canvas, okay? It's just easier that way. All right. The course objectives, just read that on your own. They're on page, like I said, I'm skipping around a little bit. They're on page 3. And just read them on their own, on your own. They're pretty straightforward. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the course schedule now on page 5. So some highlights. We have holidays where the college is going to be closed. We have Memorial Day, and that's an easy one because that's not really affecting us, but that's the reason why we're starting on Tuesday, not Monday, for our semester. But we do have Juneteenth Day, that new holiday that we're all celebrating. But that's going to be on June 19th on a Monday. So there's no class on that day. And I've adjusted everything. It's going to go a little bit, not faster, but a little bit more condensed, but it's all going to be in there. Okay. Okay. So, some material you're going to have to read on your own. And I do this with even my live class that is 15 weeks. So it's not because it's shortened. It's just I'd rather spend more time on the harder subjects where you might have questions. But the easier subjects that students have told me, I'd rather have you guys do that on your own. Kind of like skin in A&P 1, right? I mean, that was the easier material. I had them do that and ears and eyes on their own. So I do have the video web links on there. You could do that on your own. The lymphatic system, it's usually the first 6 pages or so on chapter 22. I would not have you do immunology by yourself. That's a little bit heavy, okay? The other one, believe it or not, is digestive system. It's big, but it is pretty self-explanatory. There isn't much confusion with it. There is certain things you're going to have to go over from chemistry. We're going to be talking about proteins and, those macromolecules that you talk about in biology, proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. But of course, you'll be learning about the anatomy and functionality or the physiology of the mouth all the way to the anus and what each one does. And the lab, we're going to see what it looks like. What does the stomach look like under a microscope, small intestines, large intestines, and so forth. So these 2 are definitely going to be done at home. We have to. Okay. But you're still going to be tested on this material. So you just got to find the time to do that. Okay. But I'll find time to talk about it, maybe after class or before class, or just email me to do that, okay? So that's a little bit about that, okay? Like I said, I have many video recordings on this for my recent lectures. Utilize them. You can use them anytime you want. Take notes from them as I explain to you, and revisit them whenever you want. Okay, so I want to talk about on page 6, which I don't have a slide for. So page 6 is probably the page that's most colorful, and that's the page that you want to print out and probably put on the front of your notebook. Okay, it's everything there. We're going to follow that to a T. You got the lecture and lab schedule on there. The things in parentheses, the numbers in parentheses tell you the chapters. If you want to follow with the textbook and lab book, you could do that. You'll see in color all the lecture quizzes. Yes, there's a lecture quiz on endocrinology on this Wednesday coming up, and there's going to be a hematology lecture quiz on this Thursday. Like I said, each day is a week. Each week is a month. So yeah, this first week is 3 weeks of material, which brings up the Monday, the following Monday. You'll have exam number 1 on endocrinology and hematology. So, and then you got a lecture quiz, and I got to, after the lecture, we'll do the exam first. All right. We'll knock that. So make sure you're here on time. We'll do the lecture exam first, give you a little break, and then we'll go into new material. I know you're going to be drained. I expect that. I've done classes Saturdays only, where the students were there from 8 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock. I've done classes where it goes from 5 to 10 o'clock at night for 2 nights a week. I've done it all. I know when students get drained. So you just got to be prepared. You'll also see in the dark blue, like June 9th to 11th, you got to, that's the weekend. You need to make sure that you have lymphatics under your belt. But you should also be doing digestive system under your belt too, because that's also going to be the next day or so that I'll be answering questions. But you also have an exam on that day, a practical exam. It's so crunched up. I have to give you the same amount of exams and quizzes and final exam and practical exams. You're getting the same things that a 15-week course is. I have to cover the same material, as you all know. So you know what you're, I feel bad for you guys, but you also, on the other side of the sword, you also know what you get yourself into. So that's basically how I did it. The holidays are on there too, to cover that. So just giving you a heads up, that's our schedule. And it was very tough to actually put it all together, but I think I covered everything there. Keep in mind the very last week, there's no way I could change anything else in there. I'm trying not to do 2 lecture exams in the same day, but you'll see Monday you have exam 4. Tuesday you'll have 2 lecture quizzes and a lab quiz. That Wednesday you're going to have a lecture exam and the practical exam, and then that Thursday you're going to have a lecture exam. Yeah, you have to really look at it and see if this is a course you want to take. Okay. So anyway, let me get back to the PowerPoint and do this. Okay, so on page 7, as it was for A&P 1, the lecture is worth 65% of your total grade, and the lab is worth 35%. And these are all the numerical grading equivalents that Massasoit has chosen. Okay. So let's talk about lecture tests. Lecture exams, as I mentioned, there is 5 component exams. I kind of broke up the course into 5 sections that I think is in one big gulp. To just have a midterm and final, it's better to have 5 smaller bites. I do drop the lowest grade. There's about 65 questions on each one, mostly multiple choice. The final exam is going to be comprehensive, everything from day 1. Okay, no exam can be made up, no exceptions on this. Lecture quizzes, again, there's going to be 10 lecture quizzes. They're going to be 7 points each, 7 questions. That will take up to, I will take up to 50 points. But if you do 7, the way I come up with points is 7 questions for 10 quizzes. That's 70 points. That means I'm only going to take 50. Anything more from 51 to 70, those remaining 20 points will be just bonus points for you. Okay, so that's how I kind of set that up. We'll do the lecture quizzes first thing also. It encourages you to pre-read. It kind of gauges you also to say this is when you should be done with this material. All right. Like I talked to you before when I was doing Canvas, there is video web links to watch. You could do those, maybe watch them, making my voice go very, very fast like a chipmunk. If you've already done the main one for the lecture. If you haven't, you're a little bit behind, and you may want to do these videos for these quizzes. Do that first to make sure you got the material for the lecture quizzes. And if you have time, then go through the whole thing. Start doing that, okay? But that's what that is. These quizzes will begin, like I said, at the start of class time, so don't be late to class. And no lecture quiz can be made up, okay? That's how it is. Am I dropping anything? No. If I'm dropping anything, you'll be losing the bonus points. That's what I'm saying, okay? So about these lecture quizzes, like I said before, you can use a 3x5-inch card, okay? You could write anything you want on it. I don't care. You could put anything on there, front and back, all right? But you can't Xerox anything to make it really small and scan things. They're not permitted. I find that as I do this, some students, when I didn't put this stuff in here, they get very creative. They put extra pages to it, and no, you can't do extra pages. Just all it's supposed to do is encourage you to read or watch my PowerPoints and video web links and really collect your thoughts. You don't really have certain things really memorized, but I know this is important. Put it on there and see if, if a question appears on there. All right. So it's to gauge you a little bit. Okay. You only get one index card per lecture quiz, only for the lecture quizzes. You can't use it for any other exam or quiz for any other thing. We'll be considering that cheating, okay? So that's what I'll allow you to do. Now, the laboratory tests, you guys are familiar with practical exams. I would hope that you've had that in A&P 1 where you go station to station. I'll explain a little bit more about that. There is 2 practical exams for here. They're not comprehensive. We will do everything from, I don't know, labs, whatever. Labs 1 to 5 will be practical exam number 1, and 6 through 10 will be practical exam number 2. Don't quote me on those chapters, but that's what I'm saying. It's not comprehensive. No practical exam can be made up or dropped. All right, so you have to be on time. You have to come to these on time. If you're tardy to this or late to one of these and the door is closed, you can't come in here. If the test has already started, you got to think. And I'm doing this out of respect for the students, your classmates that are already taking the exam if you're late, because it's time sensitive. You only get a minute and a half for each station. And I don't want doors to be opening, closing, that I get explained to you about the instructions, how to do this. It's too much distractions. So be here on time. I'll probably wait like about 5 minutes, but that's about it. Be here on time. If you're late, you just can't come in, okay? Lab quizzes, 5 lab quizzes. I'm not going to tell you what they are until the day before, okay? Because it'll be more clear that way. So don't worry about it. You'll get that information. I'll lecture about it. But there's 5 quizzes. You know when they occur on that schedule I showed you on page 6, I believe. It can be a mini practical exam, so it gives you an idea of what to expect. This I do drop. Your lecture exams, I drop one of those. The lab quizzes, I drop one of those too, the lowest one, okay? But you can't make up a lab quiz. You could drop one, okay? All right, then we have a cat dissection, okay? A cat dissection, there's going to be a list of about 20 organs you need to find. By this time, and it's later in the semester, by this time, you should know where the heart is, where the kidneys is, where the ureters are, and so forth. And it might even ask you stuff from A&P 1. But you should know where these things are, where the diaphragm is, where the esophagus, and so forth. So in pairs, you're going to be dissecting cats. Okay, so you do it for the blood vessels. I'm not going to ask about the blood vessels. That'll be on the practical, but these are just internal organs that you'll be tested on. You'll work in pairs, and then what'll happen is, and you'll need to find those 20 items. Now, I'm not going to be in there to help you. Use each other. Use the book by yourself. You should know where these things are. And then when you're ready, each person, not pair, but each person comes to me with their cat, and I will randomly select in a hat 10 of those 20 organs. And all you need to do is just point to them. That's it. It usually will take about 2 minutes to do. I need to make sure that you know where these parts are, because on your second practical exam, those suckers are going to be pinned and they're going to be asking questions about functions and stuff. But I do want to make sure that you're familiar with being sure that you know where these organs are and what they look like. So that's what I do. Students usually do pretty well on it. Okay. So that test can't be made up or dropped. Okay. Then we're doing blood vessels. So we're going to be doing something called a tracing of a drop of blood. We're on page 9 now. So what this is, and I'll explain more about it when we get closer to it. It'll be on the day also that you're doing the practical exam. You're studying for the blood vessels and the models, so you might as well do this trace question too. I've done it for 15 years. It works this way. I'm going to randomly select 2 places, maybe your right wrist and your left ankle. And you got to name all the all the veins going from your right wrist to the heart, all the parts of the heart, and then all the arteries going to your left ankle. So that's basically what we're doing over here. Now, it sounds harder than what it is. There's probably only 5 blood vessels that go to your heart, and there's only about 5 or 6 that go down to your ankle. It's not a whole list. I mean, it is a list, but it's not like you're not looking at 20 things. So you'll just put it down. Number 1 is this. Number 2 is this. So it'll be like a flow chart, like a laundry list going down. And I break it up as 45 points, where 15 points going to the heart, 15 points for the heart, and 15 points going away from the heart. So we'll do that on the same day. I'll give you 20 minutes to do that. Most people are done in 10 or 12 minutes. It's either you know it or you don't kind of thing. And that exam can't be dropped either, okay?